Welcome to Disruption Now. I'm Rob Richardson. Pleasure to have you here. If you're watching this on YouTube, as always, I invite you to like us, subscribe, tune in on a regular basis. If you're listening to us via podcast on Apple, on Google, please download us. Please write a review. It's how more people learn about us, so more people can hear the message of Disruption Now. I am proud to have with me, excited to have with me actually, Kathleen Bradley Redd. You may know her as Miss Parker from Friday.
Hi, Miss Parker.
Hi, boy.
And I grew up big fan. It's been an honor to get to know you. I'm so honored to have you on the show. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so very much, Rob. It's a pleasure, but I must correct you. The last name
What's the last
is
name?
Redd, R-E-D-D. And you know what? Don't feel like the Lone Ranger, because people always get that mixed up only because it has two D's. Sometimes we've been called Redo, R-E-D-O. And
Okay.
I've talked to people on the phone and hung up on them if they say Reed too many times because it's red. But I'm not going to hang up on you.
Okay, please. All right, Miss Kathleen Bradley Redd. I can remember that.
Like the color red, like what you have on today.
Yeah, that's not hard to remember. Red's my favorite color, so that's going to be easy for me. So I apologize for that. But I just want to start to give people a sense of your career, because most people, I would argue, probably know you or got to know you in terms of a broad sense through Friday. But your career started way before that. Take people through your career into eventually Hollywood, but how you started off and then how you eventually landed there on Friday.
Well, actually, I am a proud woman from Girard, Ohio. First of all, I was born and raised in Girard, which for most of you, that is close to Youngstown, right next door to Youngstown, about 65 miles east of Cleveland. And it was such a wonderful place to be born and brought up in. But, you know, I kind of knew at the age of 8 that I wanted to be in the entertainment industry. My mother used to take me to the movie theaters, and which was like a nickel then to go see a movie. And I was always so intrigued by the big silver screen and all the opulence and the actors and people. And I said, that's something I would love to do. And after that, I started singing a bit as well in the school plays and different programs. My mother sent me to modeling school and classes and what have you. And I said, you know, I'd love to get out of this place one of these days and venture and go after high school. I said, you know, college is important, yes. But I said, you know what, I just didn't want to wait. I was one of those who, like, 12 years of school was enough for me. I needed a break. So I had a very good dear friend of mine. She's like my sister, Terry Scott. She's also from Youngstown. She and her family moved to California in 1970. So in 1970, I followed suit and came out here into beautiful Los Angeles, where I have been ever since. I entered into a lot of beauty pageants and what have you, because, you know, this is such a big place, and I really didn't know anyone else out here except my sister Terry and her family and what have you. So I entered into the beauty pageants, and really it was a very good thing that I did. Would you believe I was Miss Hot Pants? Hot Pants.
I've seen Friday, so I believe it.
Oh my God. And then, of course, I entered into the Miss Black California beauty pageant, which I won Miss Black California. And from that was a really great opportunity to go to be in the Miss Black America pageant in Philadelphia. I didn't win. However, I was one of the few chosen to go to Vietnam on the Miss Black America USO tour. That in itself was worth just getting into this business at that point, because my brother, Scotty B, rest his soul, he was over in Vietnam at that time.
Right.
And this was, I think, in 71. And it was just an amazing experience, something I shall never, ever forget. You always hear about the Vietnam War and what have you, but I never fathomed for one moment I would be over there. It was kind of de-escalating at that time I was there, but nevertheless, it was just a great time to be there. And after that, when I came back here to Los Angeles, and Mavericks Flat, oh my God, people should know about Mavericks Flat International. The owner and founder is John Daniels.
Okay.
And he's had that club and started it here in Los Angeles. And actually, Maverick's Flight just celebrated its 50th year last year. He had singing groups together, John did, and he put 7 beautiful young ladies together. And he put a band behind us. We had a 5-piece rhythm band and 3 horns. And we were known as the Love Machine. I'm just a love machine. And I won't work for nobody but you. Hey, they wrote that song for us, and that's another story. However, and being in the Love Machine,
I like to hear that. We're going to come back to that story.
Traveled all around the world. The very first place we ever went to was in Saint-Tropez, France. We performed there. Italy, Germany, Spain, Belgium, Sweden, Switzerland, Africa, Asia, all over France and Japan and what have you.
And take yourself back, if I can. Take yourself back to that young girl from Girard, all right? And think about what you thought about then and what you saw as the possibilities in the world at that time. Your experience, I imagine, transformed that and really showed you what was out there. What would you tell that young Kathleen now, and for other young African-American young women in Girard, Ohio, or places like that, where they might think their only opportunity is where they're at right now? What would you tell yourself, and what would you tell others like that?
You know, you have to venture out, young ladies. Now, though, things are so different with the social media and the internet and YouTube. You can almost virtually go anywhere in the world you want to via all of these different technological apparatuses and different things. Where I didn't have that opportunity, but I tell these young ladies, and I do motivational speaking. I've done it for grade school, kindergarten, high school, colleges, and what have you. And I do teach self-esteem. And one important thing is to be able to get out of where you're at and just flex your roots and fly and take wing and be independent. But traveling is such an incredible thing to do for everyone. And hopefully if you can do it at a young age while you're still single and not have to worry about the kids or the family or the husband, it's great to do it, especially if you have an opportunity maybe to do some work in Europe somewhere, what have you, because it's a different kind of treatment that you receive when you're working, especially as an artist. You're received so much differently as opposed to just going there as a tourist. But to any degree, if you could just to go anywhere, if people just get to go to Mexico, which is close here to the United States, and see how other people live. When we were in Africa, my God, we went to Gorée.
Okay. Tell me about that experience.
You just have to tear up when you get there. I don't care. It was incredible. We have been to some incredible places. Rome. I mean, when you go into Rome and all the history that's there. I mean, I've just lived such a wonderful, great life. And it kind of fell into place at the right time and right timing for me.
But you were never nervous about, none of that made you scared, or you didn't have second thoughts, or what made you just jump over that? Because some people will have that reservation, scared of the unknown, scared of embracing the uncertainty. None of that ever really came through you, and if it didn't, what advice would you give to others because many do have that?
Oh yeah, hey, look, I was with 6 other females. We had a road manager, and we had 8 guys with us on the road. So, we were very well protected at that time and looked after, and it wasn't like we were going out on our own. And I don't really advise anyone to go out not chaperones, but if you're young enough to maybe go with a group of people, there are a lot of nice tours that you can go on, young ladies, even if you go by yourself, and that you'll be protected and that you'll have a good time with. And, they know the ropes, these tour guides and different people of that nature. So that's something you want to do. There's no fear out there, but you do have to be careful nowadays, depending on where you go, because the tourists are just really like these thieves, and people zone in. It's incredible sometimes when you least expect it. But there are, you do have to look up and see where the most dangerous or the most highly robbed or tourist attack kind of places. I would stay away from some of those places.
Yeah, I get it. Just to, so I don't.
No, don't go there. Don't pull your wallet out. Don't leave your wallet or your purse on the beach when you think you're so cute, taking your little bikini behind in the water, and then you come back, you have nothing. Going out to these clubs when you're abroad, especially, and they use the date rape little drugs. Don't leave your drink unattended. You have to be very, very responsible when you leave this country. Because, you may not be coming back here for one reason or another. You have to be careful, though, nowadays.
Yeah, you got to be careful in this country, too. And I want to get on a few things, particularly.
Yeah, we know about this country.
I mean, we got to be, so.
Hey, listen to this. This is interesting, though, real quick. My very good dear friend, of course, who is Terry Scott, Nikki's mom. She was driving her new car, her new Lexus, the other day. And, you have your navigational system and stuff on. She didn't have it on. She didn't have anything on, of course. And then she was driving to go pick up her brother. And she was in a certain area here in Los Angeles. And it was Slauson and Hoover or something. It's kind of a little notorious for not being a good neighborhood. She was driving all along. She crossed over to this one area. It says, "You are not in a safe area. You are not in a safe area." That alone just scared her for her, the GPS lady, just to say that you're not in a safe area. It was zoned not to be a good area. Isn't that amazing?
I didn't know GPS is safe. First of all, you just educated me. Maybe I've never been to a place like that, but my GPS has never said that. And full disclosure for the audience. So Nikki is my girlfriend. Terry is her mother. And you are, of course, her aunt. So everybody needs to know that. Full disclosure. So because people don't know who Nikki is. So Nikki is my girlfriend. So everyone knows that. Yes.
Okay. But anyway, just to say that.
But question, you talked about giving motivational speeches around self-esteem. And when I think about Hollywood and I think about Black women in particular, that's an area that I can see some folks having a challenge in. Particularly, you went through a time when it was very much a struggle to see representation with Black women. I would argue there's still a struggle. It's come some ways, but we still have a long way to go. But when you started in the industry, you were a trailblazer. How did you keep your self-esteem high? How did you reinforce that to yourself every day? And what advice do you give young women in this current climate?
Here in Los Angeles, this town could either eat you or greet you, and it could chew you up and spit you out. And this industry that I'm in, because, to tell a little bit more about my story, after I left the Love Machine, I did get with one other singing group. However, my real love, aside from singing, was acting. And I did get in a few TV shows. I was on Good Times, Sanford and Son, and did a little bit on some of the soap operas and what have you. But this whole process of auditioning, if you're in this industry, can be very taxing. There's a lot of put downs. There's a lot of refusals and denials. And when you're out there, your self-confidence, boy, it better be high, because if it isn't, you can be very discouraged, because you have to figure there's about 200 people in your category that looks like you when they put out a casting call for either a commercial, TV show, or a movie that your agent may send you out on. So you think, okay, at least you get your foot in the door, you have an opportunity to go out for an audition. So that's good in itself, number one. Number two, you have to do your reading. I hate auditioning. I hate cold reading. You feel like when you're sitting in front of 2 or 3, 4 other people and the clients or something, if you get that far, it can be very intimidating. But for the most part, they just have a camera there with the casting agent. So they give you your lines, or want to see what you look like, to see if you fit this part. Then if you're lucky to step 3, you'll be able to see and go and get a call back in front of the clients and different people.
You had to have a lot of failures, didn't you, though? There had to be times when you felt a little discouraged, when you went time and again, and then you would go through a script, go through this, get far in the process, and then it didn't work out for one reason or another. How did you move on from that and not become discouraged? Because I'm sure there's somebody going through that right now and saying, well, maybe this isn't for me. And they might just be one opportunity away from their break. How did you get
that is true. I mean, I don't know personally that I did. I think I kind of switched reels. And you have to come to a realization, even though you're in this business, you do have to, if you keep getting, I don't want to use the word rejected. I would like to say not fitting in for that particular part time after time. And you do get discouraged. You need to flip the script a little bit and see and make sure that this is truly something that you are meant to do, first of all. And you need to have someone that's very honest with you, because you may not be the best actor or actor that you think you are. And therefore, you may have given it your all and tried it, but this business is not for everyone.
How do you know that point, though? I mean, how do you know?
Respect, I tell people, you know, unlike myself, I did go back to college after a few years after I had my child, my daughter, and I got my real estate license and I went to broadcasting by my choice, which I had already traveled the world. But it's so very important for these young people to know you have to get your education. Even though you may be tired and weary after those 12 years of school, even if you want to take a little break, please get back into it, because sometimes when you get so far removed from the educational system and you just think you're taking a break and maybe get a little job at McDonald's or something else, then it's going to be like the longer you wait to get back in it, the harder it's going to be for you to kind of get yourself geared up and back into the business of going to school, getting that degree. And then they find out time after time when they put those applications in for something a little more larger paying scale that they don't qualify. So that's the same thing pretty much in this industry. You have to qualify. You have to have some kind of training. A lot of people think they can just jump into going on auditions and get in the business and not knowing. You know, that not knowing, that's going to hurt you, because sometimes you'll have that one opportunity to make the right choice to get out there to do it, and you may not get that chance again. So if you're not prepared, you got to be prepared. That is the biggest thing I tell people. And then if not, you know, looking at alternative. There's so many things in this world to do, especially if you're a young person. It's all open for you. So many opportunities with the technology, especially for young ladies to get into mathematics and engineering and real estate. Look and see what makes the money. Look and go to the newspapers or classified ads and see what they're asking for. Engineering, energy. We're in energy consulting right now. My husband's an energy engineer. My son, our son, he's a perfect example. After high school, he didn't want to go to college. He did go for a couple years to junior college here. And then he's a young, inspiring rap artist. So he's pretty good at it, producer. So we backed him in terms of, having him do what he needs to do with it and his equipment. And he's done some shows and different things. But after a while, he started working at a pizza place, not making much money. He moved out the house, though. Good boy with his girlfriend. And we kind of had to reel him back in a little bit. Not that he was any negative or on the wrong track, but financially, he was not making what he should and what we knew he was capable of making. So we have him working now with our company, the R Group, Energy Services and Consulting. We do energy upgrades and audits and benchmarking, compliances, and therefore lies the industry right now where people can really make some good money.
I want to dive into this a little bit, but I want to go a little bit into your time and really talk about the current environment in Hollywood. Right now, I think there's a huge movement with the Me Too movement, as you see that's going on, where women, and a lot of women of color particularly, are put up with a lot of harassment and a lot of abuse. And I see you have a book about your time as a Barker Beauty and talk about what the experience there. If you could talk about some of your experience there to the extent you're comfortable, and talk about the current Me Too movement and what your experience can teach us going forward in this current moment.
Okay, well, let me back up a little bit for those who don't really know me in terms of the Price is Right. That was another great, wonderful opportunity that was presented to me. Actually, I had my second child. After 3 months, I was still in shape, my model shape, little maybe 5 or 10 pounds. But, I was prepared because I took that break, obviously, to get pregnant and have a child. But knowingly, I wanted to get back into the business. I kept myself in good shape, and I am an advocate of good health. And you can be a heavy person, but still be in good health. But once again, depending on where you want to be in this industry, sometimes television will put 5 or 10 pounds on you, okay? So I auditioned for The Price is Right. They had to have more minorities programmed into the CBS at that time. So The Young and the Restless, Bold and the Beautiful, and several others, and The Price is Right, obviously, needed to have some people of color. The Price is Right had been on 17 years. It started in 1972. And 17 years, there was no black figure on that show that anybody could look at and recognize. And they always have a lot of people in the audience that are black, that are chosen. People love that show. It's the Mecca. You can come there and play the game. Don't have to have a high IQ like Jeopardy or something. And so I auditioned for that show, and I got it. I was the first black African-American model to join ranks with the Barker's Beauties in 1990. So I worked on that show for 10 years. It was a wonderful run. And yes, I did write a book, Backstage at The Price is Right, Memoirs of a Barker Beauty. And in that book, I do talk about some things that happened backstage and that happened in the industry. I really never had anything real devastating happen to me, out of control, that I could attest to or point a finger back at somebody after 30, 40 years and say, he did this to me now. I have a few little mixed feelings about some of the Me Too movement.
Okay, talk about it.
In that, I know people want to come out and speak and say he did this, that, and the other, director, producer, or that person, this person, after so many years. And I do believe in redemption. I believe people turn themselves around, their lives around. And I do believe, and I know that a lot of producers, directors, and CEOs of company, which one in particular, Les Moonves, who was CEO of CBS, a lot of women and people came forth saying he did this, that, and the other. Well, he's married to Julie Chen, nice, sweet mom, person, all-American. And, his whole reputation, his whole life turned around because some people came forth. And it's okay to come forth to a degree, I think, but I see a lot of these men going to slaughter. Maybe they did do things in the past. Maybe they did do some things are unexcusable. To me, like I have to say Bill Cosby, when you drug somebody and he has a history of doing that, that to me is really, that's not a good thing to do. And of course, Weinstein, these people were notoriously.
Did you know them? As you talk about, because you were in the industry, was it well known years ago that they were doing these things? And did you know any folks or?
I mean, it's called the casting couch. Yeah, everybody knew about the casting couch. A lot of women, actresses and people fell prey to the casting couch because if you didn't give it up, you didn't get the part. Now, that's totally wrong. We know that's not right, but nobody really talked about it as much as they do now. The movement is a great movement, and I think a lot of women should come in and, get out there and talk about certain things. But I hate to see sometimes the reputations of some people that we know and love, like Matt Lauer. I really like him. I miss him. I think that he kind of got a bad rap. If it's 1 or 2 or 3 women or something, I've been groped before on the backstage and The Price is Right, some of the stage hands. And I did complain one time, and they didn't do anything. They slapped this guy on the hand because he had done it before. But then they did come up with a rule because the stage hands were kind of, we were wearing bikinis, okay? We have bathing suits on. We were kind of scantily clad on the show at some point in time, depending on what showcase we were showing. And so the guys would look. You're a man, you're going to look. Hell, I'm looking at some of the girls. I'm like, wow, And they had a rule that they passed and sent out a memo to the stagehands backstage and all of CBS that is the 10-second rule. 10 seconds. You cannot look at a woman who, for any reason, or stare more than 10 seconds, and that would be considered sexual harassment.
Right. That's interesting. I mean, you talk about the casting couch and the people that are notorious. I see the Me Too movement as something that happened now that is necessary. And the fact is, many people put up with sexual harassment to pretty high levels, and it was always accepted, but never necessarily acceptable. I think the paradigm switched so quickly for people that a lot of folks were just probably unnerved about how fast it went, but it happened, I think, as a response to who the president is, Harvey Weinstein, and lots of other things that ended up just kind of pushing and making the movement take flight really from 0 to 1,000. And you combine all the internet and the power of the internet, because what I think I hear you saying is that certainly the Me Too movement overall is a good thing, but there should be maybe some process to how we go about it, and not necessarily just say, anytime there's an accusation of anything, it means you go to the absolute extreme and the person must be removed and fired. Right. Even if it's just an accusation at that point without going through a process or an investigation. That's what I hear you kind of saying.
Yeah, that's totally correct. And not that there should be a statute of limitation, but like there is even certain things, 40 years going back and to destroy somebody's life now. And 40 years ago, hell, y'all, in 40 years, man, I'd be in jail probably for doing some dumb stuff I did and whoever else I know. But I do believe, most importantly, when that movement since that movement has taken flight, that in the workplace, in particular, when women at a certain level, maybe in the executive levels, or trying to climb the ladder in a corporation in particular, and I'm talking outside of the studio and the acting, because I think in the acting industry, movie industry, it's more susceptible. It's more likely to happen in a certain hands-on way because of just the closeness and, people who are doing a certain role or something, man, or the person, a director or casting people might think they're trying to do something to have you get in that role for a prostitute or this or that, and that you have to do this or that and the other. And sometimes you have to go take off your bra. They want to see your breast. But in the corporate world, I really think it's ludicrous. It's absolutely, not right to have the women who are trying to climb the corporate ladder, and you have to do a favor to the persons who are above you or ahead of you in this realm to try to get to a certain level. Now that in itself, to me, is so criminal, and it's truly, really unacceptable. And the equality in the workplace between the men and the women, and the woman having maybe more knowledge as a man that they're vying for the same position, and the man would get it. And of course, there's a big problem with salaries. While right. The man is making a much more bigger salary than a woman who may be on the same level doing the same thing that he's doing. That's almost just like, rape itself. When you feel like that and you look at this and you look, well, because I'm a woman, I'm not getting the same pay that you're getting, or I have to do this to you and go in your room. All of it's wrong. Don't get me wrong. And there's degrees of it. And I think some of it should be done accordingly. And I think that there should not ever be a rush to judgment. And I don't know if there's a number of 1, 2, or 3 women that have to accuse a man or a person before they move on it. There needs to be like.
I think what happened, I see where you're going to. What happened is that it happened so much and so many times that women's credible accusations weren't taken seriously, that now we've gone to the point where people now make sure that I think without even examining, sometimes it's automatic that they're going to be believed in the first place, even without any examination. So, but that's a result, I think, of years and years, hundreds of years, thousands of years, really, of
You're right.
women not being treated equally. And
women were afraid to speak out back while time, and which I think is a good thing. Now you feel more freely to speak out, and they should speak out. And like I said, though, I think it has to be a very particular or meticulously looked at and how it's done, because unless it's done in the vindictive way, which it can be, and I'm not saying everybody did or does or doesn't, but I think it has to be looked at very carefully, because men's careers and reputation are at stake. And if it's something, I think maybe that can be worked out between a higher man, a higher level executive, or someone on a higher level in the industry, that these women would come forth or to them and meet with them. Right. And have some kind of sit down and allow this person, maybe they need some help, maybe they wanted to apologize. What's wrong with an apology? Well, I mean, what do you want as a woman? Do you want to say it, tell it? Do you want to destroy this man's life, who's maybe turned his life around in the last decade or two because something happened to you 20, 30 years ago? It's redemption. I think some men should be allowed to have redeem themselves, or we should have some type of sit down and have it hashed out, and without this person, let them know what they did wrong, confront them, and let them cry together, let them see they did wrong together. But and why destroy their career? They have families, they have lives. Yeah, they probably were sorry. Maybe they didn't even know they were doing something that wrong because it went on for so long. And sometimes people allowed it to happen 2 or 3 times to you, a woman, to allow this to happen 2 or 3 times, and now you're saying, no more. I mean, some of it's a thin line for me.
Okay, no, that's good. No, it's good. What about talk about being Miss Parker and how that, I'm sure that provided opportunities. What did it also typecast you in any ways, that people only saw you as Miss Parker for a while and couldn't see you outside of that role, or do you think it was more of a net plus benefit?
Okay, yeah. For those people who don't know, do they know who Miss Parker is?
Well, so we should tell them. So Miss Parker, if you've ever seen Friday, and you ever see with Tucker, I'm talking about there's only one Friday to me. That's the Friday with Tucker, with Ice Cube. The original Friday to me is the only Friday. That's the Friday I'm talking about. It's the first one. It's the best one. And in my opinion, it's the only one. If you remember Miss Parker, she was there. She was a beautiful neighbor that lived across the street.
Hi, Miss Parker.
Hey, Miss Parker.
And you know what? While I was on The Price is Right, I think we did this in 1996, if I'm not mistaken, 96, 95. Ice Cube, he kind of watched the show a little bit, and the casting people, and my agent, I had an agent at the time, and he told them, he looked and tried to find out how to get a hold of me. And he said, I want that black lady on The Price is Right. I think she'd be perfect. So I was really known for a long time as the black lady on The Price is Right. Not a lot of people knew my name, Kathleen Bradley. I'd walk down and go out into the grocery store, and I'd hear women, daughters or moms or somebody talking. They look at me, I kind of look at the corner of my eye and stuff, and they say, they come up, aren't you that black lady on The Price is Right? I'm like, yeah. But now it's like, aren't you Miss Parker? I still have the name, but it's all good. I'm very glad that people do recognize me for one reason or another. But Ice Cube, he wanted me to audition for the part. There were only a few ladies of my caliber who could have filled that part anyway. I auditioned and I got the part. And nobody ever thought or knew that it would be such a phenomenal, incredibly long-running, standing movie that had set the standard for black movies at that time in comedy, and it was so well written. It was funny. I mean, it's one of the most. I can still watch it to this day. I think we've had our 25th anniversary. It's 26 years. I can still watch it to this day and laugh uncontrollably, and I know what's coming up, but it's just that kind of honest.
It is that type of thing.
Laughing, you don't have to force yourself to laugh. You get it, and it's incredible.
There's only a couple movies like that too. I think it's that one. I think there's only a couple movies I can think that are like that. Friday is one. Coming to America is another one to me. Those are those two movies. I can watch those over and over again. I laugh just as hard the 20th time as I did the first.
Well, I love all the Nutty Professors. I'm a big Eddie Murphy fan. Who I know Eddie. I was in Harlem Nights. He got me that part in Harlem Nights. But all the Nutty Professors, the Clumps, and everything. That to me, those are like the funniest series. Anything like that I can laugh at, aside from Friday and a couple of other movies like you mentioned. But it was nice working with everyone. I didn't get a chance actually to work directly with a lot of the people, but I see them every now and then out. Of course, dear Bernie Mac's no longer with us. I see Ice Cube every now and then. As big as Los Angeles is and small as it is, you think I'd run into him.
What's he like, by the way? What's Ice Cube like? What's he like on a regular basis? What's he like?
You know what? I don't know him that well enough. Have not really been around Ice Cube enough. Like I'm saying, I think I've seen him maybe twice since the movie. Oh, wow. And I ran into him not too long ago. He was doing an interview right up the street at this cafe with Charles Barkley. Okay. And I went up to him and I talked to him and I reminded him who I was, because he kind of knew, what I'm doing now. But he's been doing so much. Sure. He knows so many people.
Absolutely.
But listen to this irony. Paula J. Parker, who was in Friday. She's the one who had the long fingernails and the blonde head, chewing the gum, coming up. I just saw her yesterday. We're working together on it's a web series. It's called A House Divided. Okay. And I play her mother. We're from a very wealthy family and what have you. She just hugged me. I just hugged her. She and I had talked, but we hadn't seen each other in such a long time. She's been doing a lot of great work. But this TV web series I'm involved in now is kind of like Dynasty, Empire. It's like very wealthy family, and Lawrence Hilton Jacobs in it. What's her name? Oh my God, so many people I can't even think right now. But it's going to be.
Where's it going to be premiering? Where is it? A House Divided. Where is it going to be premiering at? And what?
Actually, a web series. It's on you. Are you familiar with UMC Urban?
UMC Urban? What's it called? UMC Urban?
Yes, it's the Urban, I forget what the M stands for, channel. It's Urban. I think Pam Grier is a part of it. She was talking about it on some of the talk shows. She's part owner of it, has all of the black 70s movies, anything black movies, TV shows. You can go, it's like a $4.99 subscription every month. I think it's right now, see it on TV, the web, internet, but it's a web series that we're going to do that's going to be a part of this.
If you send me the link, if you send me that link, I'll make sure that we put it on our show notes and put it up so people know where it's at.
Yes, I would do that. Yeah. All right. But, I'm working a little bit here and there and doing a few things outside. I'm working with the family and taking care of my nice, handsome little special needs 11-year-old grandson. So life has been very, very good to me. Very, very good.
Well, tell me about your grandson. Tell the audience about your grandson.
King Yari, my daughter Cheyenne's son, my only grandson. He's 11. He has Down syndrome. Okay. Such a wonderful, delightful child. Many years ago, before he was even born, every time I would see a Down syndrome child, they have such very different characteristics, and you could tell for what their faces look like, because Down. And, just what they look like. Typically, spot one normally. He has some of those characteristics, but not a lot. He kind of looks a little more like he's a Cuban or Hispanic or Oriental or something. I don't know, but he's just the most handsome child. And he's just so fun-loving. When I thought Down syndrome, I thought the kids were going to be like really like slow moving. And that boy has more energy. You would not believe it. They are slow learners, of course, but it's been a wonderful, great experience for me, one which I would never change.
And
having him in our lives.
What did you learn from that? What have you gained from that experience?
Oh my God. I've gained so much. I've gained, first of all, patience. Okay. Because all my kids were gone. Our youngest is like almost 30 now. And We've had him for a while because Cheyenne, my daughter's a single parent. She's a hard-working young lady, and it's difficult for her to work evenings and days and whatever. So we elected to have him over here primarily. The bus picks him up from here. So me and my husband, Terrence, he's given us so much love and joy, and even has brought another realm of a layer to our marriage for me and Terrence, because it's just so much love. And this young boy, King Yari, he is so loving. He will run up to you and hug you and kiss you. And, typically I find out, too, a lot of Down syndrome children are very hands-on and hugging and loving, sometimes to the point where we've had to have him say to strangers, like, baby, you can't just go up and hug the grocery lady or somebody. We have to teach him to shake the men's hand. And, he'll go in the grocery store and he'll hug the lady next to us standing in line and everything, which is cool. But, nowadays, you really got to be a little careful about that. But I'm involved with some of these organizations that promote or help Down syndrome children for their betterment, for learning. Like one of them is the Jonathan Foundation, and Raj Mahabra. She is an advocate for special needs children, not just Down syndrome, but for autism. And even there's a lot of kids in high schools and different things that have issues and problems, that have learning of disabilities. She deals with a lot of kids just have learning disabilities. And then the school system, unless you know what to ask for, they will not tell you or give it to you.
You're absolutely
right. It is your right to go in to ask for these certain things that these school systems have to enhance or help these kids with a one-on-one, with diction, with speech, with all kind of motor skills and different things of that nature to help make this child become an ideal citizen and be able to function more properly within the school system. And it has been just so good to try to see all this happen and implement it, and working with her and watching him develop. It's just really gives you just a great sense of fulfillment.
Well, what I like to talk about is I have a learning disability. I have attention deficit disorder, and it's not as challenging as Down syndrome. I'm not comparing the two, but
what is it called?
Attention ADHD. ADHD.
Oh, yes.
Right. So
I know about that one.
Yeah. So the issue is that there are some that try to define you solely by your learning difference or disability. And, I've had success. Obviously, I'm an engineer now. I've been a lawyer, and I'm doing a podcast now. But had I just been what my teachers thought I should have been, some of them, not all of them, but some of them said I'd never go to college, that I had a below average intelligence, but here I stand. And so, I would just tell.
I need to ask you, how did you overcome? What did you do? Was there anything, did you have it as you carried on in adulthood?
Yeah, I mean, it never leaves. There's also opportunities with things too. So there's a lot of people that have done lots of great things that go on to be scientists, and but it's learning how to understand that just because you understand and process things differently, you're not limited by that. So the most important thing I had was strong parents, and particularly my mom's words still sat with me as I struggled early on in school. She told me, look, Rob, you never have to be defined by anyone's low or narrow expectations of you. You always define yourself for yourself, by yourself. So after I was able to overcome those struggles, it's why I was able to be successful. But I understand there's a lot of other people that don't have the same support, resources, and infrastructure that I had. And that's why I'm passionate about, public service and spreading what I've been through, so others can understand that, they don't have to be defined by their circumstances, no matter what they are, no matter what, their financial situation is, if they have challenges, you don't have to be defined or limited by that. So in most ways, that's actually helped me become more successful.
You know what? I have to ask you this. I know one very good, dear person to me, which I'm not going to mention, that I think they're every time, and I know they have ADD.
Sure.
And they're in denial that they have it.
Yeah,
and I know it because I know the symptoms, because I know somebody else as a young child had it as well. I'm not going to mention any names, but this person I know now that very well has it. They like I said, they're in denial, and I know they're learning very slowly, doing things and putting things in order, or not working to the full capacity, or you tell them to do things and they just can't quite put it right, but they can do certain other things more legitimately, or be maybe a genius in the music or doing other things of that nature. I know some people who have that are more hands-on and physical, more so than mentally. So I'm really kind of curious. I'd like to see if you know of any place or something. I know they have these Ritalin and all that the kids could take, or families or people that could take controlled substances. So I don't know if that's a good idea. I know it works with some people, and I would like to really kind of help get this person some help. What would you suggest?
Well, I would suggest to let them know that it's not a bad thing, or it's not saying that you don't have the ability to succeed. So they have to know going in that the goal with this is not to say that, you know, you're slow, you can't do well, because that's not true. Look, I graduated with honors from law school. I graduated from engineering. So you have to learn how to work with what
how to process it.
Correct. You have to learn how to process things. You have to learn how to be organized. You have to learn that you have to work harder in other areas than others do. However, the upside is this: you can be more creative. You could, if you know how to use that creative energy, you can end up doing things that others can't do. But you first have to learn to process and learn in a way that works for you. And there's nothing wrong with admitting that, nothing at all. That doesn't make you.
If they're in denial about it, that's the whole problem in and of itself.
Which is why I talk about it. That's why I talk about it.
I know nutrition. Nutrition has a lot to do with some of the HDD, absolutely. And I know I've had somebody in my past, and they had gotten tested. And I know, about your brain, how the alpha, how you can see the red and the orange part, how they show you your brain, how it works and everything. And, taking them to a nutritionist and helpful with your diet. I've heard that that's kind of helpful as well.
And some of it is just genetics. So like, I'll say, if you want to know an example of how an ADHD or ADD person thinks, think of it like this. 2 + 2, when you're going through that, someone will say 2 + 2 = 4. ADHD person will say, well, that's 1 + 1 + 1 = 4. Then maybe 1 + 3. They'll see all the different patterns and get off the fact that we're just focused on 2 + 2. So, but that doesn't mean that that's wrong. It's just teaching them how to organize your thoughts, but then also how to have creative flow, because there is also, ADHD are some of the most creative people, and it's about making sure that they are organized, or work with a system, or work with people that will help them stay organized and on point. Because generally, your ADHD person is a visionary. They're the people that are leading the vision. They need to work with someone who's really good at details and operations. And together, in the right system, a person with that ability, I'll say, and difference in thinking can really have substantial impact. So don't look at it as a limitation. Look at it as an opportunity, and just move forward.
There you go.
That's what
I
I'd
like
say.
that. You're right. You got it.
So final thoughts on this. As we wrap up, I want to thank you, Kathleen Bradley Redd. I want to thank you for coming on. Final question. You've talked about what you wanted to be when you grew up, and you've kind of achieved that. What do you want to be now?
I want to be a 7-handicap golfer.
Oh, okay. Watch out now.
I do.
All right.
I do. Seriously, I am at the point in time. I'm very fortunate and love my husband. We've been married 30 years. We've evolved so much in our life and marriage, and have a great, beautiful family and a nice home, and our business is thriving. And I'm semi-retired. I've got my pension coming. I'm on my Social Security. I got my ARP card, Medicare. I mean,
well,
what more could a girl want? Just a little more time and freedom to play more golf, which I love and enjoy it. That has been something that I must say over the many years I've played. It's been very, very relaxing for me, very challenging. It's just a wonderful sport. I've met so many great people playing golf.
Okay.
I played in celebrity golf tournaments. I've played and Anthony Anderson, Cedric the Entertainer, Steve Harvey, and you play for a lot of good charities as well, for the Heart Foundations, for autism. So all of that in itself has really given me a lot of joy and fun. So I'm going to still keep acting. I keep getting called for parts, which is cool because I hate auditioning. If I have to go out there and leave my house and try to go get a job auditioning and I get rejected, I'm not wasting my gas anymore. But I'm just pretty much enjoying doing what I'm doing and helping out my auntie who doesn't feel too well and taking care of her and family. And I'm very nurturing, and God is good. Staying healthy pretty much is half the battle.
Amen. Well, thank you again for coming on the show, Kathleen Bradley Redd, otherwise known as Miss Parker. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.